Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. As promised, I am going to do a demo of my scan and cut machine because I have a lot of people asking about it, and I have shown it before in videos, kind of like in the middle of a card making video, but I thought I would just do one video showing the actual cutting process because that's what so many of you have asked me for. Now, I'm not very fancy with it. I don't hook my scan and cut to my computer. I literally just use my scan and cut for cutting out images that I've stamped and colored. So that would be the first tip that I would share, is that color your images first. They're going to be easier to color when they're on a sheet of paper rather than them being tiny little cutouts. And also I find that it makes the scan and cut have an easier time recognizing all the different pieces here. Now, I used a stamp for some of these where I had an outline and a solid image. It would color it all in. So on areas where I didn't have it perfectly lined up, like if you look here, it's not perfectly lined up. I don't know if you can tell. I'm not sure if the scan and cut is going to cut on the black line or it's going to cut on the color. Generally, for your scan and cut to work, you want to have a really solid dark line. And if you have a stamped image that doesn't have a dark line, you can go in with a pencil and you can fill in that line. You can erase it later if you need to, but you need a line for it to recognize and scan around. So the other thing you're going to need is your mat. Now, I've taken the plastic protector off this mat already. I think you can see that there. And I am going to press this down. And I like to push it down in the middle of the mat because then I have plenty of room around it on all the sides for the scan and cut to recognize like the little dots. Now I've got a flatter surface here, so I'm just pressing it down really well. Now, when my scan and cut mat gets dirty, so here's another thing I want to mention. I've had my scan and cut for about 5 years. I bought it on a Black Friday sale at Joann.com 5 years ago, and I think I paid about $250 for it. And I'm still using the original mat that came with the machine. So when it starts to, and it's not a very sticky mat. It's it probably says it's a standard mat that comes with the machine. And I know there are newer models out. I can't speak to those because I've never used them, and I've never used the older model. This is the Scan and Cut 2 model CM350, which I do believe you can still find. If you want that exact model, there's probably the newer ones are better. I don't know. I did know they released a product called the Design and Cut, which didn't scan. So just make sure you get one that scans. So after I press it down, and like if your mat stops getting sticky, you can use like I use a dish rag and some dish soap, and I just kind of scrub it and let it air dry, and then it will get tacky again. But if you get to a point where there's no sticky left, you can spray it with a repositionable adhesive. And so what I do is I just tape off the edges so I don't get the part that feeds into the machine on the rollers sticky, and I spray it with quilting basting spray. Now, I'm sure that's not manufacturer recommended. That's just what I do, so proceed with caution if you want to do that. I do that for my other die cutter mats as well because I don't want to buy any mats if I don't have to. These mats held up really well. I'm still on my first mat. And then I take some tape, which is in this cute tape dispenser, but it's just Scotch tape. It's actually from the dollar store. And I take 4 pieces and I tape in each corner. So I'm putting one down here in this lower corner. And that's another reason I want to leave plenty of space around so that I've got room to tape. And if it does for some reason reflect and not give me a good scan, there'll be enough around for it to for the scanner to catch. So when I'm stamping, I try to leave a little extra space in the corners for doing my image. And I don't always do a full sheet. You can just do a partial sheet. All right, so we've got this secured onto our mat, and we are ready to go over to the machine. Okay, I'm over here on the floor on the other side of my desk, so my desk is right there where I was sitting. And I have my scan and cut machine on a microwave cart that actually came into this thrift store that my daughter works at, but they don't accept furniture, so she was going to have to take it to Goodwill, but the owner said she could have it if she wanted to. So it's a nice sturdy cart, so I use it as an art cart. And this is what my scan and cut looks like. And it's got this little screen on here. I'm just going to turn it on there. And I would recommend if you get any sort of die cutting machine, oops, there we go. If you get any sort of die cutting machine, like for the holidays or as a gift, or maybe you buy one for yourself, just get it out and use it and play with it. And that's how you're going to learn how to use it. You're not going to hurt it. So just play with it and have a good time. And so this is what it looks like. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my mat here and I'm going to load it up. And you can go in either way. So If you put it in this way and you're not getting good scan, then, you know, put it in the opposite way. It'll work both ways. So sometimes you'll just get kind of a finicky bit and it won't want to go. This is probably really over-explaining, but I just wanted to get this out there for anyone that's... I know a lot of people buy machines and then they're afraid to use them. So you could have bought a machine during that same Black Friday sale I did and, you know, been a little afraid to use it. So what you want to do is just kind of make sure it's centered up. And there's little buffers on either side. This will fit in just exactly. So just make sure your mat's not curling. And then you're going to hit the load button. Or you can load it after you hit the, you know, pattern or scan. So let's say you just got this machine and you know what, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. If you choose pattern, you can choose all kinds of different images. In fact, when I got this machine, I was making a scrapbook for my sister and I was just making a plain scrapbook that she could put her photos in. And so I'm like, well, I'm going to learn this machine, and I hit the pattern button and I found all sorts of stuff that I could use for like holidays and different events like that. And so I made a scrapbook using all the patterns in there just to get used to it and see how it went. So do something like that if you're not sure what you want to do. Make some die cuts to use for future projects. You're not going to hurt it. Just get in there and start playing. So I want to scan, so I'm going to hit the scan button. And then I can choose either direct cut or scan to cut data. I'm going to choose direct cut because I just want to cut around these images. Scan to cut data is if you want to save your image or maybe cut the insides out of, say you're cutting a wreath and you want to be able to cut around the wreath, but you also want to cut on the inside of the wreath, so you want to make a die cut that's got both the innie and the outie. You can use that. I don't bother with that. I keep it simple and I'm just going to do direct cut. And then I'm going to hit start. And it's going to go in and scan that. So let's zoom out a little bit so you can kind of see how that mat is, what's going on there. And I'm going to need my little pointy tool here. You got to make sure you have plenty of room behind your machine too so that it can go in and out. And another tip, if you're going to have one of these machines, find a place to leave it out. You know, make yourself a little dust cover or just take an old pillowcase or something and just keep it covered to keep the dust off it. But leave it out because if you have to take it off a shelf and plug it in and hook it up every single time you want to use it, you're not going to use it. You're creating more steps and more friction between you and the tool. If you don't have room to leave it out, I would honestly consider maybe not purchasing it, because if it's easier to grab your scissors and cut it out by hand, that's probably what you're going to do. So, you know, see if you can find room for it. So I'm going to zoom back into the screen here so you can see what we have. Okay, I'm going to hit OK. Yeah, I'm going to hit OK because it's scanned. And look at that. It actually, hopefully you can see that. It recognized every little deer on there. So I'm actually just going to bring this a little bit closer, because it was having some other stray marks on the outside of my paper and I didn't want to cut those stray marks. So I just want to cut out the deer. So like sometimes if you have like a little bit of a, if you have like a little scrape or a scratch or a cat hair or something stuck in your mat, the scanner will recognize that and it will want to cut that out as well. So by dragging in the corners, you can just have it cut the area you want it to cut. Now, another thing that happens sometimes is that, so maybe you've done this whole sheet, but maybe it only recognizes like 5 of the deer. So you can drag this around just the ones you want to cut out, just the ones that were recognized, and then you can rescan, or then you can tweak your different settings to make it like this right here. If your things aren't showing up, you can hit that and you can adjust your, you can adjust how sensitive it is, and that will work really well too. So let's see, can I go back? Yeah. So that way you can make the other ones show up, but you can cut out the ones that were recognized first before you do that. All right, so I'm just going to drag that box back to where it was, and it just takes a second to process, and everything looks good. Everything's going to cut out just fine. So I'm actually going to drag that a little bit lower because I wasn't sure if I got that whole head in there. And then we're going to cut it. Okay, so that looks good to me, so I'm going to say okay. And now I want to cut. So you could actually put a pen in this machine right here. You could put a pen in there instead of a cutting blade, and you could draw. Like I could take this out and I could reinsert another piece of paper and have it draw those shapes if I wanted to. I don't, but you know, it's something you could do. And now I'm just going to hit cut, and then you've got to hit the start button. So you're not going to be able to do this on accident, you know, so there's just a couple steps. And then it's going to start cutting. And this is kind of a loud machine, but as you can see, it's just kind of cutting around on my little shapes there. And when we come back, we'll see how it did. Okay, it's probably been about 3 minutes, I would say, if I had to guess. I should have put a timer on, but I think it's probably been about maybe not even that long. And our machine has done cutting out is done cutting out all of these deer. So it says finished cutting. I'm going to hit OK. And now I'm going to push the eject mat button. And this is what we have. And so what I'm going to do is actually just, I like to actually peel off the outside. It looks like everything, all right, you can run your fingers over it and you can feel the ridges where they've cut out. And I'm just going to take off the tape. Now it's really important to remove the tape if you've stuck tape onto your mat, because I've had tape actually get like pulled into the machine and get stuck on the scanner glass. If you have an issue where all of a sudden your scanning cut is not cutting, it's not scanning properly, you probably have a dirty scanner glass, and you can access it from the bottom of the machine and clean it. Julie Faith and Balsler has a really good video on cleaning your scanner your scanner glass. And look, I'm peeling these all away, and we've got all these beautiful deer cut. There is our waste paper there, so that can go in the trash or in the recycling bin if your town recycles. And there we've got all of our little deers, which we can peel off individually. Look at that. Okay, and I'm going to see. Now, I did have some where when I stamped the color, like the color layer, so I had the outline layer and I stamped the color layer, and my color layer was offset. It did actually recognize the color layer, and I do have a little bit of a gap between, like a cutout around the color layer, I should say, which is not the ScanNCut's fault. There was cutting the outline like it's supposed to. That was my not lining up my stamps great, but works great. And I highly recommend this product if you have room for it and if you're not afraid of, you know, learning some tech stuff. But this is all I use it for. I scan and it cuts, and that's it. I don't hook it to my computer. I occasionally might use the pre-designed things if I'm looking to do a quick card or a quick scrapbook page, but for the most part, it's scanning and cutting. And because I've been stamping for so long, I figured it out, because this was $250 when I bought it. And at that time, if you wanted to buy a matching die set for like a set of stamps, it was generally around $25. And I thought, if I use this 10 times, or if this keeps me from buying 10 sets of dies, then it is made up, it's paid for itself. And I've used this so much. I use it weekly at least. Almost anytime I stamp, I'm using it. So for me, it was a good investment. I can't say if it would be a good investment for you, because I don't know how often you'd use it, but I would say the people that I know that don't use their die cutters, don't leave the die cutters out. So just find a place. This is ideal because it has an open back, so I can actually, if this wasn't deep enough of a shelf, I could pull it out from the wall and have it there. But if you had a wide, like IKEA shelf or something, if you could put it on the opposite way so you'd have room back and forth to let the mat go, that's basically what you need. You just need a place where you can leave it out. Because if you have to unpack it every time, I just don't think you'll use it. So this was a long-winded way to show you how to use a scan and cut machine. Again, my model's older, but the newer ones I imagine work just the same way. And for me, it was a worthwhile investment. So if you think you would use it, you know a little bit more about it. Anyway, I did this by request because a lot of people asked for it. I know it's nothing new. If you have a machine, you probably know this already, but I hope it helped some of you guys be demystified a bit, and hopefully encourage you, if you have the machine, to use it, and it just gave you a little information about it in case you were curious. So thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up if you found this video helpful. Share it with a friend. And until next time, happy crafting. Bye!